Motherhood is hard under normal circumstances, but when you add in moving every couple of years and military deployment, that is a whole nother level of difficulty. This week's podcast is called KoFe Confessions, and it's all about navigating the world of being a military spouse. Kodie and Felisha are the hosts, and they are such fabulous, kind, genuine people. I can't wait for you to hear my conversation with them. I'm Andy Smiley, the Friendly Podcast Guide. I'm a mom who has used podcasts to fight the boredom and loneliness of motherhood, and now I want to help you find a podcast that can do the same thing for you. It can be overwhelming to try and find a podcast you'll enjoy in the thousands of shows that are out there. That's where I come in. My episodes are short, and they answer all of the questions you'll have about the podcast, so you'll know if it's a good fit for you or not. I'm here to help you find a podcast you'll love without wasting your time. Now, let's talk podcasts. Kodie and Felisha describe their show like this: an uncensored podcast where BFFs Kodie and Felisha spill the coffee on motherhood, military life, and every mess in between. So grab a cup and join us for our latest confession. The length of each episode is around 30 minutes. The series is ongoing with new episodes available on Mondays. Before we learn more about the vibe of the show, we're going to take a quick break to talk about my guide to kid podcasts. One of my favorite parenting tools is kid podcasts. I use them when I'm running errands with the kiddos to keep them from complaining the whole time, or when I need a mom break, I'll just grab an easy activity like coloring pages or a sensory bin, turn on a kid podcast, and the kids will be entertained for at least half an hour. I know that kid podcasts would help you in your life too, which is why I made a guide to kid podcasts. There are 8 categories ranging from science to mindfulness to audio drama, with at least 3 podcasts in each category. There are 27 podcasts in total on the guide. I've listened to each of the podcasts so I can attest to them being kid-friendly. And I put my email at the bottom of the guide so that if you try a couple with your kids and none of them are a good fit, you can email me and I will personally help you find a kid podcast that works for your littles and you. You can grab this guide at the link in the show notes. Now we get to hear from Kodie and Felisha as they share how their community is different from many of the military family communities on the internet. I am so excited to talk to Kodie and Felisha today about their fabulous podcast, KoFe Confessions. And before we dive in, can you introduce yourself a little bit to my audience?
So I'm Kodie. I am a mom of 5. I currently live in South Carolina with my husband. He's in the military. He is currently being a drill sergeant. So we are navigating a new crazy lifestyle that we haven't experienced before. I am like a proxy North Carolina native. I grew up in Arizona, and then my mom followed the same steps as her. She married a soldier, moved to North Carolina, and I'm kind of doing the same thing now.
That's fabulous. And I think Kodie has a couple of kids hanging out, but we're all moms here and we all get it if there's a bit of noise in the background.
I'm coming to you from the school pickup line. I'm literally grocery shopping and pickup line all in one. So I don't think you can get any more mom than that.
I don't think so either. And we all get it. We have all been there. So I'm just glad you found some time to talk to me. So, and then Felisha, tell me a little bit about you.
Yes, I am Felisha, and I have been married for 10 years now. We have 3 kids, and we are currently in the state of Georgia. Ironically, my husband is also a drill sergeant. Our spouses came down on orders at the same year, so we kind of parted ways that way. This lifestyle brought us together, and so as hard as it can be, I was very grateful for it. And I kind of backed my husband. I am from Texas. And so I said, I will follow you wherever you want to go. But when you are done with your career, take me home. Take me back to Texas. That's where my heart wants to be, where I want to finish raising our family and things like that. And so currently here in Georgia for the next few years until it takes us somewhere else.
That is one fascinating part of being a part of the military, is just how much you move. And I feel like you get to learn. I feel like you get to figure out how to be a really good friend and like make new friends really fast. Like that's something that you probably just have to get really good at.
You're kind of thrown into it.
Yeah, definitely. So why did you start your podcast?
Well, and before the pandemic. So whenever I say like in 2020, I think a lot of people think like, oh, they needed a pandemic coffee, but coffee was actually created before the pandemic even started. I mean, granted, it definitely got us through those quarantined months and things like that. But in January, I was kind of going through that phase that we all go through where you're like, okay, what am I going to do this year? What am I going to do for myself? And I didn't want it to be the gym. I didn't want it to be something for my kids. I wanted it to be something for myself. And so I thought, well, what about a podcast? And then I realized, like, I don't think I'm quite confident enough to speak on it by myself. So I brought the idea up to Felisha, and she was like, let's do it together. And I was like, you're a genius. Let's do it together. And the funny thing is everybody thinks we've been like these lifelong best friends. But when we started KoFe, we had only been friends for about a year. And at first, when we started, it was more so like motherhood, marriage, in the military, like that we call them the 3 M's. And so we wanted to hit all of those different points. And as it evolved, we realized, like, one, the safety of our children was important to keep them a little sheltered from the public eye. And so it formed more into like this military community that we've been building up. And yeah, that's just kind of how it started. It was just like we needed something to do that wasn't pouring into our kids all the time. It was something for ourselves and to be creative for ourselves. And it kind of just like whirlwind from there.
Yeah, it turned into like one of those God things. Like, so we are obsessed with coffee, like the actual drink. And that's how our name became KoFe. Is so KO is for Kodie and FE is for Felisha. So like, I was like, oh, well, that's a play on words. And like, that works out really cool. And then the more it grew through the pandemic and everything, we felt more led to like our community. It was a lifestyle that we've lived for 10 years now. And we felt like we had some helpful insights there. And it kind of drifted and drifted and drifted. And here we are.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. I started my podcast after I had my third baby, like literally like breastfeeding her, researching how to start a podcast because I was like dying. I needed something that was just for me, like you said. And I feel like sometimes we as moms don't think we deserve that, but we do. So I absolutely love that you are leading by example and doing something just for you.
Yeah.
So
what do you want your listeners to get out of your podcast?
A sense of community, I would say. That's really the whole reason that we share what we share. We're no experts on this life, but between the two of us, we've experienced 20 years worth of things. And our community can be very toxic at times. It's a lot like the motherhood community. It's like, well, I have it harder, or you don't have it as hard as I do, or I'm better than you, and I do things differently than you. So really our podcast and our whole platform was just to build a sense of community, to be like, hey, we've been there. We've experienced that. Like, your feelings are valid. You're justified. Like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yes, you have the hard times. And that's what we've created it for, is for the people going through those hard times.
But another thing is too, that we want people to feel like community, but also like seen. Like, we want you to know that, like, if you're having trouble on deployment, there's somebody else out there who is too. A lot of times you can kind of make yourself feel crazy where you're like, well, this is his job and I'm just feeling sorry for myself, or this is really hard. Why am I struggling with this? Or so many different scenarios can come to play, and it's easy to look inward and just be like, I'm the problem. Maybe the problem is me, or I don't fit into this lifestyle. And so we want people to feel seen. Like, we see you, we've been there, we know what it's like. We want to be relatable on all levels, whether you're an 18-year-old brand new spouse or a 40-year-old seasoned spouse, or you're somewhere in the middle like us. We just want you to feel seen.
Definitely. And this is my favorite question to ask, quite honestly, because the answers are just fabulous. So how would you describe the vibe of your show?
Our vibe is like
funny.
Yeah.
Messy.
I think it's like, honestly, you grab a cup of coffee. Our hashtag is #SpillTheCoffee, because like we have the tea, but we're serving it in a coffee cup. So it's like having a cup of coffee with like your friend. And, you know, sometimes if there's something emotional going on in your life, we might cry. And if there's something pissing you off in your life, we might rant. And if there's something that you are just like, y'all, I have got to tell you this, and you might laugh. It's just kind of like having a conversation with your best friend at a coffee shop.
It's really a friendship vibe. That's all it is. A lot of people will like respond to us and be like, I felt like I was right there in the room with you, just sitting there, because she's my best friend. She's my only best friend. And so when we get on there, like, yeah, we are, recording, say we're talking about deployment. We're recording to help you guys with our tips, but I'm talking to my best friend. Like, this is what I went through this last deployment. She was there with me the last deployment. Like, this is, and just our lives. And so whether it's, a serious thing, and we're like, scary or something like that, or if it's funny and we're sitting there laughing, or like we can't pronounce something and I was like, are you trying to say this? And she's like, yes. Or like, oh, we had this, or funny story, I peed my pants because I'm a mom, like that's true story right there. But it's really just like that relaxing friendship, like, hey, hi, we're normal average people just sharing our lives with you.
Right. Yeah.
That is so great. As a mom, as a stay-at-home mom, I need those podcasts in my life. I need conversational podcasts that just make me feel less alone. And quite honestly, to like add some adult conversation to my day, because sometimes all I do is listen to tiny human voices, and I just need an adult voice, at least in my head, if not like in the room with me.
Yes, if you're like me, I like talk to myself. I was like, I totally agree with that. And there's nobody there. It's just me talking to myself. My husband's like, oh, what are you talking about?
You know what? You got to do what you got to do to get yourself through the day. I love that. So I'm going to ask you what your favorite episode is. But before I ask you that, can you tell me, where can people find you?
If you go to KoFeConfessions.com, you can pull up like our website, that is our website, but you can pull up our podcast on there and listen on there. And then also it will show you all the places that we stream at. So maybe you don't use Google, Spotify, or Apple. If you go to KoFe Confessions.com, it will pull them up and you can listen to them right there on our website. Or if you see maybe the platform that you use right there, you can click that link and it'll take you right to it.
It's also linked on our socials too. So if you want to like click it, and it'll just say listen to the podcast, and it will pull up everywhere it's streamed.
Okay, perfect. Then I will make sure to link your socials and your website in the show notes so that people can go directly where they want to. Great. And then, okay, so now favorite episode or a couple of episodes, because I know it's hard to choose just one.
I will say that it's not the best, it's not the best quality, but I'm going to say the pilot episode, because we had no idea what we were doing. And we were sitting in my bedroom, literally surrounded by piles of laundry. It was clean, but it was laundry nonetheless. Yeah. And we just sat and recorded the podcast. And I think we said like a million times. I mean, it's so cringy to go back and listen to, but I have to say that's probably one of my most favorite, because it's what started it. And just the memory of being surrounded by laundry and starting something that has blown up into what it is just, I absolutely love that.
That one, I don't think we've got over the like yet. That's just like our lingo. And so you're going to hear like a lot in our podcast. Yeah. It's just our thing.
For sure.
I have a lot of favorites, really, because there's like some emotional ties. When we've said goodbye to each other twice now, while we PCS away. So, the see you when I see you, it was a really emotional one for us because we were leaving for the first time. But I think one of my favorites would be the branches and its wives. Now, this one is not the best quality because we had so many people like coming together, and platforms were giving them issues and things like that. But it was so fun. It was a lot of the wives that we've met doing this over the 3 years, from different branches, Navy and Air Force and different things. And like we came together and we're just like, this is what they call it. Do they call it here this? Like, this is what we do. Like, what are you doing? Like, how are you? How is your sanity today? And that was just so fun to see it from everybody else and come together. Like if you were all right there in one room, like, having like a, powwow type thing.
That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, that one was a lot of fun.
I will make sure to link both of those episodes in the show notes so that my listeners can go straight to them, because they both sound fabulous. Is your podcast okay for little ears?
I mean, if little ones walk in, are they going to hear something super explicit, I don't think so. I mean, do we drop an F-bomb here or there? Yes. But we're not, are we talking, we're two shy people. So if we do talk about like the things that you do in your marriage, we kind of tiptoe around it. And we're like,
I think it's, like child censored, right? We're not going to say like, is this your life doing in these deeds? It's more like, when a married couple, do the things that they do, it's kind of, we tiptoe around it. So there is some language on occasion, but I mean, our kids are around when we record typically. So I don't think it's anything that is too far-fetched.
I've listened to it in my own car with my kids in the car. And so, I mean, but they might just be so much like desensitized to it now that they're just like, oh, mom's listening to her podcast again. But I think it would be fine if they walked in and heard it. We're not, saying anything that we wouldn't say to each other in front of our kids. So,
sure.
But maybe if you are like a no cussing family and things like that, I would just take into regard that we do cuss here and there in our episodes. So, but other than that, they're not going to hear anything that would be any different than two moms sitting on the porch drinking coffee together and ranting maybe about their husbands or the military life.
Okay, perfect. Well, I feel like that is the beauty of podcasts is you get to choose. And if you want to put a headphone in, you can, like, easily. Right. So that's awesome. Okay, is there anything else that you want to add that we haven't touched on yet?
I'm going to share one thing. We actually created a resource for military families, and it is based on our children. So it's like a big chunk of our heart here at KoFe. And it is a deployment book for kids. So you can go on Amazon. It is called Kylie and the Deployment Wall. So if you're going through a deployment or a friend's going through a deployment or upcoming or something like that, we share how we kind of helped our 7 children at the time go through a deployment. And that's one of our like dearest and nearest treasures.
Wow, that is such an awesome resource.
Thank you.
And the only thing that I would add to it is just that if you're listening to this and you are a military spouse or you're about to become a military spouse, there's a mean girl vibe going around. And we just want you to know that KoFe is not a mean girl vibe. You can sit with us. You can ask us questions. You can ask for advice. We always say we may not have the answer, but we'll listen and we'll figure it out together. If we can find you the resource, we'll find it. If we can't find the resource, we'll complain about it with you. Like we're here. So we're kind of like the big sisters that we wish maybe we had walking through as young military spouses.
Oh, I absolutely love that. I feel like there are so many mom circles that can be so mean or just like dismissive or rude or like, oh, you're not like me, so I don't want to talk to you. And I'm so grateful that you have a space that is welcoming and kind and just ready to help. So that is so wonderful.
Thank you. It's been a work in progress. It's hard to fight, there's a lot of trolls on the internet and people will come for you when you express an opinion. But the feedback that we've received has made it so much worth it. Like so the many messages of like, thank you for making me feel valid. Thank you for making me feel seen. Like I'm, coming into this life or I'm seasoned and I never, thought about it that way or different things. Like it's hard to put your heart out there and be vulnerable with people and be like, this is how I'm feeling. And I hope you like accept that. So it's been a journey, but it's a fun one.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your podcast with me and my listeners. And I cannot wait to share you both with my listeners. It will be so fun.
Thank you so much, Andy.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you know someone who could use KoFe Confessions in their life, will you share this episode with them? Also, if you need another tool in your parenting tool belt, grab my kid podcast guide. Talk to you soon. Truly, it's a little bit harder to edit when there's like more than just 2 people, but it's so much more fun. Like the conversation is always so much more fun.
It's like you're sitting there like talking to people. It's like, have I known you forever or what?